Alrighty, so a little bit of an interesting video, I guess. The official JP Twitter account actually retweeted out about an article that I would assume a Japanese journalism company did, but they interviewed one of the people who works for Netmarble and is over the whole like Seven Deadly Sins sort of genre in the company, I guess, and he talks a little bit about Origin, which is the new game that they announced. If you haven't seen that, I already have a video on the trailer and everything, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit more open world. I know a lot of people are kind of excited for that one, and also the future of Grand Cross, which was definitely that definitely piqued my interest. So beware, light mode on this website is fierce, but we're going to read over some of the stuff in this because I thought it was kind of interesting. I've already read through some of it just to see if it was actually worth looking at or even like trying to make a video on, and some of it's pretty cool stuff. So yeah, we'll hop in and sort of talk about this a little bit. So I'm gonna skip this intro bit because he basically is just talking about like, oh, Origin is a hot topic at the moment because they just announced it at their Netmarble NTP, Netmarble Together with Press conference thingy that they did, and then he talks about how they're just going to be talking about Grand Cross and stuff of that nature. So if we scroll down a little bit, he talks about game management, which wasn't anything too crazy. The biggest thing that I got from this section right here was this one. It says, how do you collect feedback and player feedback about the game? And he says, I play games every day as a player, even though I am general PD. Not really sure what PD is, to be honest. In addition to simple feedback, I also play all the in-game content that is being serviced as information gathering. In addition, we mainly refer to the internal opinions of enthusiastic players in the company and the opinions and impressions of official forums, YouTube, and various other fan communities. So they're looking at, I'm assuming, it doesn't say like the Reddit specifically, but they definitely look at some of the YouTube content that people are making, which this is on the Japanese side of the thing, so I'm assuming they're looking at JP YouTubers. I don't imagine they're looking at the global YouTubers probably, but potentially maybe. The fact that they're looking at the forums, hopefully it's the JP forums, and hopefully the JP forums are a lot better than the global forums are, because the global forums are awful. Like, it's so unorganized as far as like the people just posting whatever they want, and most of it's really toxic. So not a big fan of the global forums. He says, what is the most requested player request? And he basically just kind of beats around the bush on that one. He says, due to the nature of the game, the play style, account fighting class, characters owned, and each person's experience are different, so we tried to get various opinions from as many different players as possible. He says he can't really narrow it down to one thing that people ask for, because there's a lot of things that people ask for, so kind of understandable. And then I got to this section here, which is, how far is the story of Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross planned? And they talk about Ragnarok a little bit, and how a lot of people are pretty interested in some of the original characters, being Magelda and Skadi being some of the two that are of a real interest at the moment, I would assume, because they're, I don't want to call Magelda a waifu, because I don't see her as a waifu, but she's definitely a character that people are wanting in the game for sure. So yeah, that's pretty cool. They talk about the slow development of the Ragnarok storyline, and he says that it's definitely not going as fast as he originally planned for it to, but it's because it's an all new story. They're having to develop it as they go along, and there's just a lot to it, so it's taking a little bit longer than he was originally anticipating, and he says, I feel very distressed because of how it's not going as he planned, but hopefully, I still like a lot of the Ragnarok stuff. I'm really planning on, once they get more chapters out, I want to go back and like actually see and read the actual story for it, because at the moment I've just kind of been skipping through it for the rewards, but I am actually interested in it because I like a lot of the mythology that they are pulling from to make the story, which is cool. This one is also pretty good. This one is pretty much where I stopped because I thought this was noteworthy enough to make a video on. So the main story is also heading toward the second half of the third term. I'm assuming they're talking about the third season of the anime, and I think that we will continue to the fourth term and the ending, but are there any plans of the story after that? So I think one of the biggest things that people are going to be asking as of late with, you know, with Origin coming out is, are they going to even finish, you know, Grand Cross? Are they going to continue working on it, blah blah blah? Because I think a lot of people are worried that they're going to be diverting a lot of resources into Origin, and I can definitely see that being the case. But he says here there are no plans after the ending that have been completely finalized. However, I would like to continue to show the story of the original story, so they're definitely going to try to finish the main, you know, anime out. And he says, in addition, after the end of the fourth term, there is a plan to develop the story of Professor Nakaba Suzuki's latest work, The Four Knights of the Apocalypse. If you don't know, that is the sequel to to the Seven Deadly Sins, where it goes over the story of Percival, if I'm not mistaken, is his name. I haven't really read anything on it because it's not. I was wanting to try to buy like the volumes of it as it was coming out, but I don't think they've actually made any volumes in English yet. The volumes that they have are still in Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. So I haven't really looked into the whole Four Knights of the Apocalypse thing yet, but it seems kind of cool. I think there's some interesting stuff that goes over, you know, spoilers and stuff like that for the regular Seven Deadly Sins, so I'm not going to talk about it really, but he says we'll let you know when it's decided a little bit more clearly, so stay tuned. So the fact that they're definitely going to try to finish out at least the main storyline of Seven Deadly Sins is good news, because obviously, like he said, we're heading towards the second half of the third term, so we're not even to the fourth season yet, and he's saying that they're definitely wanting to finish the fourth season. I would assume that only matters if the game still ends up doing well. I'm assuming if Origin comes out and a lot of people dip out of Grand Cross and they see like a large drop in, you know, revenue and stuff like that for it, they could potentially try to scrap it at some point. But as far as I guess he knows, or as far as his plans are at the moment, they're going to try to finish through the entire main story. So that's good news, and the fact that they're talking about maybe progressing into the sequel stuff as well would be honestly really cool. I think that would be really neat. The Seven Deadly Sins: Battle of Light and Darkness. Many voices received from players. So as you know, collaboration is carried out through collaboration and contacts with other companies. Therefore, what? When did he talk about collabs? Therefore, it is difficult to pre-publish before it is completely decided, so please understand this part. What I can say for sure at this point is that we are planning to continue to hold various events such as reprint collaborations and new collaborations in order to provide players with new experiences and fun through collaboration. So that's also good news. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk recently with some of the leaks and stuff like that have come out that the Slime collab is probably getting a rerun very soon. I don't know about very soon, but sometime soon-ish. So that's going to be really interesting. The fact that he said that new collaborations is also a good sign as well, so they're still looking to potentially, you know, partner with different companies that haven't already collaborated with Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross, and, you know, try to make those like come to life as well. So that's good. So good news for future proofing as far as the game goes. In the current Grand Cross, there are many missions and quests, so-called daily routines, and there is an opinion that duplicate content is repeated. How about the improvement around that? It's been 3 years since Grand Cross started its service, but I'm aware that the number of content and daily routines provided will be considerably large, and it will take more time. Normally, when adding new content, we make efforts in trial and error to reduce the playtime of existing content. We will continue to improve the existing content system for a while, reduce daily routines, and plan more fun upgrades for the future, so please look forward to it. The one thing I've got to say is I'm actually pretty happy at the moment where like the dailies are as far as the game goes. I think that's my one biggest gripe about a lot of like open world games. So that's one of the things that I'm really gonna like look at and see whether or not it's actually like time friendly as far as like whenever Origin comes out is like at the moment I can finish my dailies on Grand Cross anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes, which is good. Like I can get them over with easy peasy. I don't have to worry about the game anymore for the rest of the day if I really don't want to, because obviously I've been playing for a long time. You know, you don't always want to get on the game, but you know, certain events come around, certain things come around. There's, you know, different sorts of like final boss or like just various events and stuff like that that they sort of come out with certain updates where you kind of have to mess with those a little bit more each day, which can definitely extend like how much you have to play each day to like stay like on top of your grind, I guess. But as far as like the regular gameplay goes, without like any sort of like crazy events going on, I'm actually pretty happy where it is at the moment. Sometimes like the events can sort of bog you down if there's too many at one time, but then again, a lot of the times there's not a whole lot going on in the game through like the regular gameplay. So sometimes having all those events is kind of nice as long as you're not like burnt out at the moment. Please tell us about the coin shop. Improvements have just began to progress with the update, but there are many opinions that the cost performance of the new products is not good. Are there any plans for review? The coin shop is still undergoing reorganization, and this reorganization is part of that. I'm aware that there are opinions that is disappointing. I'm assuming talking about the Race Draw 1 tickets that got removed, but since it is still in the early stages of reorganization, there are no plans to add new products immediately. However, due to the characteristics of Grand Cross, we plan to continue reorganizing the shop due to fluctuations in product value. So he's saying that there's probably not going to be any immediate additions to the coin shop, which is a little disappointing. I think a lot of the characters and stuff like that in the coin shop are just so outdated at this point that the coin shop really doesn't have a whole lot of value to it at the moment. Like there's not really anything worth getting in the coin shop besides like stamina pots or maybe like event items if you really want to rush through an event. So I think if they added more coin shop characters or just newer characters to the coin shop, that would be very beneficial for players, but is what it is. We're only like halfway through this page. I'm not sure exactly how long this is, but I don't want to go on forever. So if some of these aren't like super interesting topics, I might skip them. I'll leave a link to this actual article down in the description in case you want to read it on your own, in case I skip anything. Although the amount of gold received is increasing, there's no place to use it in the game other than the equipment gacha, and it seems that the number of players who tend to have too much will increase. Do you have any plans of new consumption locations? At this point, I think that the increasing number of places where gold is consumed may further widen the gap between players. Rather than increasing the current consumption space, I think that it is necessary to shorten the time to consume gold. Okay, I don't think that's a really interesting topic, to be honest. Like talking about gold. Okay. Gold, I feel like gold has just kind of just been like one of those background things that you just farm for whenever you need it, and then you can, or like if you want to, you can farm it as much as possible and then gear gacha anvils and hammers, I guess, if you really want to, but I don't know. While the third anniversary of the service is approaching and the number of new/returning players is increasing, it may be difficult to catch up with existing players. How about this area? I have been watching over the new members of the Grand Cross FNC as new returning players of Grand Cross, but I feel that there are many problems again due to the gap with existing players. With this in mind, we plan to direct the lineup of festival events and gachas to help new/returning players while continuing to provide events and system support to grow the character. However, I think the part about collecting characters should give more players the same opportunity rather than just for new/returning players. So I think what he's saying is he's going to try to work on like banner lineup, kind of like to make sure that new and returning players can get units that are useful potentially. I would hope. I mean, obviously it doesn't say that outright, but I would hope, you know, that's the case. What the Seven Deadly Sins Origin aims for and what will happen to Grand Cross in the future. Last month, the video PV of the Seven Deadly Sins Origins was released and became a big topic. Please introduce the outline of this work again. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the many people around the world, including South Korea, for their interest. As introduced in NTP, the Seven Deadly Sins Origin is a game of the open world action MMO CCG. character collecting game genre. I've never heard of that. I've never heard it called that before. While it becomes a hot topic, many users seem to remember similar games that when looking at the content and the atmosphere of the PV, is it still conscious? I think those who watched the video thought of the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Genshin. He just says, okay, they put out the entire name of Breath of the Wild, but then they just say Genshin instead of Genshin Impact, but whatever. As many players expect, there are similarities to the two games mentioned due to the nature of the open world genre. However, as a game developer, I think that I have to have an original system only for Origin regarding the battle mechanism and gameplay, and in fact I am developing this part with a great deal of attention. So that's obviously really good. You don't want it to be just like the other games, or else it's not going to do very well, I don't think. I mean, obviously some people will like it because it's 7 Deadly Sins, but I guess it's got to have some sort of new thing going on if you want it to be different and stand out, I guess. Is Origin based on the original story of the 7 Deadly Sins? In Origin, we are preparing the original story based on the multiverse of the 7 Deadly Sins through collaboration with Kodansha, which is the people who published the manga. We are preparing to deliver a new story different from the original based on the strengths and weaknesses gained through various experiences cultivated in the development of Ragnarok, which is the original story of Grand Cross. In addition, we are preparing stories suitable for an open world. So that's actually really interesting. If I'm not mistaken, I think there are some small details that people picked up on whenever watching the trailer for Origin, where there's some characters that are really late in the show, without saying spoilers or anything like that. So I don't know where in the timeline this story is going to take place, but the fact that they're talking about Ragnarok and stuff like that from Grand Cross is kind of interesting as well. NTP has announced a total of 5 new games, but there seems to be a concern among players that the 5 developments may neglect the update of Grand Cross. First of all, Grand Cross and Origin are developed in the same studio, but because the development teams are different, updates will not be neglected because of the new work. I'm also the developer of Grand Cross, but I'm also the player who recently completed the Constellation of Lazy and achieved 10 million account battles. Good lord. Okay. As a gamer who has played the game without spending a lot of money while sleeping, I myself am very concerned that the update of Grand Cross will not be carried out properly because of the new works. So such concerns are, please think that it is not. Some of that was really, I mean, this whole article is Google translated, by the way, so some of this is just very awful grammar. I'm honestly not exactly sure what he's saying here. Maybe he's just saying that he's also concerned about it, or maybe he's saying that people shouldn't be concerned about it because he's on top of it. I'm not sure. So does it mean that you don't have to worry about the content development and play content for Grand Cross in the future? Actually, the question is also the biggest reason for responding to this interview. Of course, Origin was released, and there was a part where the reaction of the players around the world, including South Korea, was better than expected, but the reaction from the players of Grand Cross that updates seemed to be neglected. I was very surprised. As I mentioned earlier, Grand Cross and Origin have the same IP, and Origin is a successor to Grand Cross, but it is a game that pursues completely different fun in genre and playing method. We have a plan to continuously update the fun of Grand Cross, both when developing Origin and after its release, so I hope you will continue looking forward to it. So I think he's saying there's nothing really to worry about. And then lastly, he says, finally, please give a few words to the players and fans. I am very grateful to all of the players who played Grand Cross for 3 years in Korea and Japan and nearly 2 years globally. There was a lot of trial and error in the service for a long time. Based on what I learned in the process, I still do my best to continue to change the future Grand Cross and convey new enjoyment. Of course, we are also preparing Origin so that you can feel the fun different from Grand Cross, so please look forward to it. Thank you very much. So I think basically what the whole gist of the article is about is saying, like, they're two totally different games and they shouldn't affect each other because they have two totally different teams working on them, but they're just under the same IP at the same company. So they will both have their own dedicated teams working on them. There shouldn't be any neglect or anything. He still plans on continuing out the story and everything like that, and still has a lot of plans for like upcoming content and everything like that for the game. So I think this has definitely been, I guess, like, good at clearing up some just random questions that you might have had about, like, oh, they're coming out with a new game, I'm worried about the lifespan of the one that I'm already invested into, kind of thing. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty interesting. I don't know, obviously this went on a little bit longer than I was expecting, but then again, I'm literally reading an article and I'm a slow reader, so that is pretty much it. I don't have anything else to say. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this, because honestly it's kind of cool, kind of interesting to see, the Japanese developer of the game sort of talk about the future of the game a little bit. So I'm kind of looking forward to Origin. I don't know that it's going to be like a main game. Like, I'll definitely try it and see if I like it, but my main concern is just continue playing Grand Cross, to be honest. So yeah, cleared up a couple of things for me. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you in the next one.